Welcome to Easy English Lab. I'm Mia, and this is our special series about English at work. Today, we're starting with office basics and daily routines.
And I'm Leo. I work at an international company and use English every day. You know, Mia, when I first started working here 6 months ago, I was so nervous about making mistakes in English that I barely spoke to anyone.
That's a common feeling for many people. How did you overcome that fear?
Well, let me tell you about my colleague Sarah. She's been so helpful. On my first day, she noticed I was looking confused during the morning meeting. Afterwards, she came to my desk and said, "Leo, I noticed you seemed a bit lost during the meeting. Would you like me to explain anything?"
That was very kind of her. What exactly happened in that meeting?
The manager was talking about KPIs and ROI. All these acronyms I didn't understand. Sarah patiently explained that KPI means Key Performance Indicator, and ROI means Return on Investment. She even wrote them down for me with examples.
Having a supportive colleague makes such a difference. What other morning routines did you need to learn?
The coffee machine was my next challenge. It's one of those fancy machines with many buttons. The first time I tried to use it, I made a huge mess. Hot water and coffee grounds everywhere. My manager walked by and saw the disaster.
Oh no, what did you say to your manager?
I was so embarrassed. I said, "I'm so sorry about this mess. I'm still learning how to use this machine." But you know what? He was very understanding. He said, "Don't worry, Leo. Everyone has trouble with this machine at first. Let me show you how it works."
That's a great example of being honest about your limitations can actually help you learn faster.
Exactly. Now, let me tell you about our email culture. In my first week, I made another mistake. I sent a very formal email to my teammate Tom that started with, "Dear Mr. Thompson." He replied and said, "Hey, Leo, you can just call me Tom. We're pretty casual here."
That's an important lesson about understanding the company culture. What did you learn from that experience?
I learned to observe how other people communicate. I noticed that for internal emails, most people use hi, first name, and end with thanks or best. But for external emails to clients, they use dear, full name, and sincerely.
Those observations are very valuable. Now, what about lunchtime and social interactions?
That's actually my favorite story. In my second week, Sarah invited me to join the lunch group. They were all talking about a TV show I'd never seen, and I felt left out. But instead of staying quiet, I asked, "What's that show about? It sounds interesting."
That was a smart way to join the conversation. What happened next?
They were happy to explain the show to me, and we ended up talking about different types of TV shows we all enjoy. Now we often discuss what we're watching during lunch breaks.
It sounds like you've adapted very well. But I know office life isn't always smooth. There are challenges too.
Definitely. Just last month, we had a situation with a new project that taught me a lot about workplace communication.
So, Leo, tell me about this challenging project situation.
Well, we were working on a marketing campaign for a new product. I was responsible for the social media content, and my colleague Mark was handling the website. We had a tight deadline, only 2 weeks to complete everything.
That sounds stressful.
What went wrong?
After the first week, I noticed Mark hadn't started the website yet. I was worried, but didn't know how to ask about it without sounding like I was criticizing him.
That's a delicate situation. What did you do?
I decided to approach him casually. I said, "Hey, Mark, I wanted to check how the website is coming along because I need to make sure my social media posts match your design." I tried to make it about coordination rather than accusation.
That was very diplomatic. How did he respond?
He looked surprised and said, "I thought the deadline was next month. There had been a misunderstanding in the project briefing. He had written down the wrong date."
So your approach actually helped prevent a bigger problem. What happened next?
We went to our manager together and explained the situation. Our manager appreciated that we communicated the problem early. She helped us reorganize the workload and extend the deadline by 3 days.
That's a great example of proactive problem solving. What other challenges have you faced?
Last month, we had what I call the printer incident. The office printer broke down right before an important client meeting. I had to print 50 pages of reports, and the printer just stopped working.
What did you do in that situation?
I had to quickly find a solution. I went to the IT department and said, "Excuse me, the main printer on the 3rd floor isn't working. I have urgent documents to print for a client meeting in 30 minutes. Can you help me?"
That's the right way to handle technical problems. Be clear about the issue and the urgency. Did they help you?
Yes, the IT guy was very helpful. He showed me how to use another printer on the 4th floor. He also taught me how to check the printer status online, so now I can avoid that problem.
It seems like every challenge becomes a learning opportunity. Now, let me ask you about a different type of challenge, office dynamics. Have you experienced any interpersonal issues?
Actually, yes. There's one colleague who often interrupts me in meetings. At first, I didn't know how to handle it. I would just stop talking and feel frustrated.
That's a common issue. How did you learn to handle it?
Sarah gave me some good advice. She suggested I say, "I'd like to finish my point," politely but firmly. The first time I tried it, I was nervous, but it worked. The colleague apologized and let me continue.
That's excellent assertiveness training. These skills are building towards something even more important, presenting your ideas confidently and advancing in your career.
Presentations used to be my biggest fear, Mia. I remember my first team presentation. My hands were shaking so much I could barely hold the clicker.
Many people feel that way. What helped you overcome your fear?
Practice and preparation. Before my last big presentation, I asked Sarah to be my practice audience. I presented to her 3 times, and she gave me helpful feedback each time.
What kind of feedback did she give you?
She noticed I was speaking too fast when I got nervous. She suggested I pause and take a breath between slides. She also helped me simplify some complicated points.
That's valuable feedback. Tell me about the actual presentation day.
It was for our quarterly project review. There were 15 people in the room, including 2 directors. I was so nervous that morning I could barely eat breakfast.
How did you handle the nervousness?
I arrived early to set up and test the equipment. I also prepared notes with key phrases I might need, like, "That's an excellent question," and "Let me check the data on that."
Smart preparation. How did the presentation go?
It surprisingly well. I started with a story about our team's journey with the project, which got everyone's attention. When I got to the data slides, I used the phrases Sarah had suggested, "as you can see from this chart," and "the key takeaway here is..."
What about the question and answer session? Many people worry about that part.
That was actually the best part. One director asked a question I hadn't prepared for. Instead of panicking, I said, "That's an interesting perspective. Let me think about that for a moment." Then I gave a thoughtful answer.
That pause was very professional. It gave you time to gather your thoughts. How did you feel afterwards?
My manager came to me and said it was the best presentation he'd seen from our team. But the real victory was feeling confident in my English abilities.
That's wonderful. Now, let's talk about regular meetings. Have you noticed any differences in meeting cultures?
Definitely. In my home country, meetings often start with casual conversation, but here we tend to get straight to business. I had to adjust to that.
How do you make sure your voice is heard in meetings now?
I prepare talking points beforehand. I also use phrases like, "I'd like to add something to that point," or "building on what Sarah said." These help me enter conversations naturally.
Those are excellent strategies. All these professional skills are preparing you for career advancement. Leo, you've come a long way in 6 months. Have you started thinking about your career path?
Actually, yes. Last month, we had our team building event, and it really got me thinking about my future here.
Tell me about the team building event. What was it like?
It was a 2-day retreat at a nice resort. We had workshops during the day and social activities in the evening. On the first night, we had what they called a networking dinner.
That sounds like a great opportunity. Were you nervous about the networking aspect?
Very nervous. But I remembered your advice about asking open-ended questions. I ended up sitting with the marketing director, and I asked him, "What do you enjoy most about working in marketing?"
That's a great question that shows genuine interest. How did he respond?
He talked for 10 minutes about his career journey and even gave me some advice. He said, "Always look for opportunities to learn new skills, even if they're not directly related to your current role."
That's valuable advice. Tell me about anything else significant happened during the retreat.
Yes, during one workshop, we had to solve a business case study in groups. Our group came up with a creative solution, and I was the one who presented it to everyone.
That's fantastic. How did that feel?
Amazing. The CEO was there, and she complimented our approach. After the presentation, my manager pulled me aside and said, "Leo, I've noticed your confidence has grown so much. Let's schedule a career development discussion next week."
That's a perfect lead-in to talking about career advancement. How did you prepare for that discussion?
I spent the whole weekend preparing. I made a list of my accomplishments, skills I want to develop, and my career goals. I also researched appropriate salary ranges for my position.
That sounds very thorough. How did the actual meeting go?
It went better than I expected. My manager started by saying, "I've been very impressed with your progress, especially how you handled the marketing presentation last month." Then we discussed potential career paths in the company.
What specific goals did you discuss?
I mentioned that I'd like to take on more leadership responsibilities. I specifically asked about possibly leading a small project next quarter. I also inquired about the company's training programs.
That shows initiative. What was your manager's response?
She was very supportive. She suggested I complete the company's project management certification, which they would pay for. She also said she'd keep me in mind for the next suitable project lead position.
Those are concrete steps toward advancement. Now, looking back at your journey, what advice would you give to someone just starting in an English-speaking workplace?
I would say 3 things. First, don't be afraid to ask questions. It's better to ask than to make mistakes. Second, find a mentor or supportive colleague like my Sarah. And third, embrace every opportunity to practice your English, even if it feels uncomfortable at first.
That's excellent advice. And remember, professional growth is a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. 6 months ago, I was the person who couldn't work the coffee machine. Now I'm planning my career path and considering leadership roles. If I can do it, anyone can.
Thank you for sharing your inspiring journey, Leo. To all our listeners, we hope these real workplace stories and practical English phrases help you feel more confident in your professional English journey.